Before I could process what was happening, the engine started, and I thought, oh my God, I think this is the end for me. Suddenly, I was enveloped by a sense of eternity, where time didn't exist. Every cell in my being vibrated with joy, as if they knew something I had yet to understand. The story you're about to hear is a true account. The names of the characters and places have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved. If you believe in miracles or have experienced one, leave your opinion in the comments and subscribe. It was a splendid day in the Adirondacks. The sun shone brightly, the air was filled with the scent of pine, and the lake looked like a shimmering mirror. I was in seventh heaven, surrounded by my family, savoring every second of our vacation. Come on, Donna. It's time for some fun in the water, my brother-in-law shouted from the boat. I didn't need to be told twice. I jumped into the crystal-clear water with a grin from ear to ear. We had spent the morning fishing, but now it was time for the real action. Who wants to be the first on the inflatable? My older sister asked, holding the tow rope. Me, I exclaimed, feeling the thrill bubbling inside me like I was a little girl again. I climbed onto the inflatable, holding on tightly. My brother-in-law started the engine, and we began to glide across the lake. The wind whipped against my face, and water splashed all around me. It was an indescribable feeling of freedom. Faster, I shouted, laughing. My brother-in-law winked at me and sped up. We turned and bounced over the waves, and I couldn't stop laughing. I fell into the water several times, but always climbed back up, eager for more. You're incorrigible, Donna, my sister shouted from the boat, shaking her head but smiling. As I floated in the water, waiting for the boat to pick me up again, I looked up at the blue sky and thought, there can't be a more perfect day than this. Little did I know that, within minutes, that perfect day would turn into a nightmare that would change my life forever. One last round before lunch, my brother-in-law announced. I got comfortable on the inflatable, with my sister behind me. The boat started to move, slowly pulling us away. The rope tightened, and we began to gain speed. That's when I heard something that froze my blood. Get off the inflatable. The boat is sinking. My brother-in-law's desperate scream echoed across the lake. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. How could it be sinking? It was impossible. But when I looked at the boat, I saw the panic in my brother-in-law's eyes. It wasn't a joke. It was real, terribly real. In that instant, the world seemed to slow down. I saw my sister throw the tow rope to the left. I saw the inflatable in front of me. And then, to my horror, I saw the rope wrap around my leg. No, it can't be, I murmured, incredulous. I tried to free my leg, but it was trapped. Panic began to take over. I heard the roar of the boat's engine. No, wait, I screamed, but it was too late. The boat took off at full speed, and I was dragged underwater. The last thing I saw was the blue sky disappearing as I sank into the lake's dark depths. At that moment, I didn't know it, but I was about to embark on a journey that would challenge everything I thought I knew about life, death, and what lies beyond. The water enveloped me with brutal force. It felt as if 1,000 knives were stabbing into my leg where the rope was tangled. The pain was indescribable, but I had no time to process it. I was being dragged at a dizzying speed, sinking deeper and deeper into the lake's dark waters. This can't be happening, I thought desperately as I struggled to free myself. But the more I tried, the tighter the rope around my leg became. Panic took hold of me when I realized I couldn't hold my breath much longer. My lungs burned, begging for oxygen. Unintentionally, I inhaled water. The taste of the lake filled my mouth and throat, making me gag. Oh my God, I'm going to die here, a voice screamed in my head. At that moment, a strange thought crossed my mind. All that college education, and I can't get out of this. It was almost comical if it weren't for the desperate situation I was in. I kept swallowing water uncontrollably. The pressure in my chest was unbearable. I felt as if I was about to explode. And then, something changed. A strange calm came over me. I wasn't struggling anymore. I no longer felt afraid. It was as if a part of me had accepted the inevitable. So this is how it ends, I thought with surprising clarity. My mind began to wander. I wondered where they would hold my funeral, in Arizona or New York. How would they organize it? It was surreal to be thinking about my own funeral while drowning. Then, the unthinkable happened. Suddenly, I felt as if I had separated from my body. It was an indescribable sensation, like I was floating outside of myself. I saw my body under the water, being dragged by the boat, but I was somewhere else. I crossed what seemed to be a thin layer, like a transparent plastic veil. As I passed through it, a revelation struck me like a bolt of lightning. I'm dead, I thought. But there was no fear in that thought, only astonishment and curiosity. The most surprising thing was that my consciousness remained intact. I could think, I could feel, I could exist. Wow, I brought my consciousness with me. That's pretty cool. I found myself thinking, almost amused by the absurdity of the situation. And then, another revelation shook me. Time no longer existed. Not in the way I had known it on Earth. It was as if I had entered eternity. There was no past, no future, only an eternal present. As I tried to process this new reality, something even stranger began to happen. I felt a vibration. No, I didn't just feel. I was the vibration. Every cell of my being, or whatever I was now, vibrated with incredible energy. I looked down, or at least I felt the sensation of looking down, and saw that I was composed of trillions of cells. But they weren't normal cells. Each one seemed to have a little happy face, and they were all laughing? Yes, they were laughing and vibrating with joy. What are they doing? I wondered, baffled by this cosmic spectacle. And then I heard them. The cells of my body, or whatever I was now, began to sing in unison. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Who's coming? I asked, though I wasn't sure if I was really speaking or simply thinking. I felt a presence approaching. It was as if the whole universe was holding its breath in anticipation. Slowly, I turned my attention upward, or what I perceived as up in this directionless realm. And there it was, a presence so vast, so powerful, so overwhelming that my mind could barely comprehend it. It had no defined shape, wasn't man or woman, wasn't a he or she. It was everything. At that moment, I knew with absolute certainty. I was face to face with the creator of the universe, with God. The realization hit me like a wave of pure energy. Oh my God, I thought, and then realized how appropriate that thought was in that moment. God had no face, no body as we understand it. It was more like a cosmic aurora borealis, a being of pure energy that rippled with colors I didn't even know existed. It was beautiful, terrifying, and fascinating all at once. And then, something happened that would change my understanding of reality forever. God communicated with me, not with words, not with sounds, but directly to my being, to my essence. The icy water enveloped me completely, pressing against my chest with relentless force. Each passing second, I felt life slipping away. The rope around my leg tightened more and more, causing me indescribable pain. It was like 1,000 knives piercing my flesh simultaneously. I have to get out of here, I thought desperately. But no matter how hard I struggled, no matter how much I tried to free myself, it was useless. The boat kept moving, dragging me with it into the depths of the lake. My lungs burned, begging for oxygen. I fought the urge to breathe, knowing that if I did, I would only swallow water. But the human body isn't designed to resist without air for so long. Finally, my mouth opened involuntarily, and the cold water invaded my throat. The taste was horrible, a mix of algae and earth. I coughed and choked, but only managed to swallow more water. I felt my lungs filling up, the liquid replacing the vital air I needed to survive. This is how I'm going to die, I thought with surprising clarity. There was no panic in that thought, just a strange acceptance. It was as if part of me already knew this was the end. As I struggled underwater, my mind began to wander. I thought of my family, my friends, all the things I would never get to do. Who will find my body? I wondered. How will they tell my parents? Bubbles of air escaped from my mouth, rising toward the surface that I could no longer reach. I watched them drift away, taking my last reserves of oxygen with them. I could really use that air, I thought with macabre irony. The pain in my leg was unbearable, but I was beginning to feel a numbness spreading throughout my body. Was this death approaching? Or simply hypothermia starting to affect me? My thoughts became confused. Images of my life flashed before my eyes. My childhood in New York, my years in college, my career as a teacher. It all seemed so distant now, as if it had happened in another life. All that university education and I can't get out of this, I thought bitterly. It was almost comical in a way. Years of study, 2 master's degrees, and here I was, unable to escape a simple rope. The world around me began to darken. I could no longer see the bubbles rising to the surface. Or were there no bubbles anymore? I didn't know. All I knew was that the end was near. Strangely, a calmness began to take over me. I no longer felt fear. I no longer fought. It was as if my body had accepted its fate and was now simply waiting for the inevitable end. In those last moments of consciousness, my thoughts turned to practical matters. Where will they hold my funeral? I wondered. In Arizona, where I live now, or in New York, where I grew up. How will they arrange everything? It was surreal to be thinking about my own funeral while drowning, but I guess the human mind seeks distractions even in the most desperate moments. I felt my consciousness begin to fade. The pain, the cold, everything started to drift away. It was as if I were floating, slowly separating from my physical body. And then, just when I thought everything was over, something extraordinary happened. It was as if an invisible hand grabbed me and pulled me upward. Not physically, but spiritually? I had no words to describe it. Suddenly, I found myself outside my body. I could see myself, still trapped underwater, but I was elsewhere. It was an indescribable sensation, as if I had crossed an invisible threshold between life and death. Am I dead? I wondered. But there was no fear in that question, only immense curiosity. I looked around and saw what seemed to be a thin layer, like a transparent plastic veil. Without knowing how or why, I knew I had to go through it. And so I did. Crossing that veil, everything changed. The lake, the boat, my physical body, all disappeared. I found myself in a place that wasn't a place, in a time that wasn't time. Oh my God, I thought. This is eternity. Crossing that ethereal veil, I found myself in a space that defied all comprehension. It wasn't a place in the traditional sense, but more a state of being. Eternity surrounded me, and I was part of it. I'm dead, I thought, but strangely, I felt no fear or sadness. It was more a simple observation, like noting the sky is blue. The most surprising thing was that my consciousness remained intact. Wow, I brought my consciousness with me. That's fascinating, I reflected, almost amused by the absurdity of it all. It was then that I realized that the concept of time, as I knew it, had ceased to exist. There was no past or future, only an eternal present. It was as if the entire history of the universe and all its potential future existed simultaneously in a single infinite moment. As I tried to process this new reality, something even more extraordinary began to happen. I felt a vibration. No, I didn't just feel it. I was the vibration. Every particle of my being, or whatever I was now, vibrated with an indescribable energy. I looked down, or at least had the sensation of looking, and saw that I was made up of trillions of cells. But they weren't ordinary cells. Each one seemed to have a little happy face, and they were all laughing? Yes, they were laughing and vibrating with joy. What are they doing? I wondered, baffled by this cosmic spectacle. And then I heard them. The cells of my being, or whatever I was now, began to sing in unison. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Who's coming? I asked, though I wasn't sure if I was really speaking or just thinking. I felt a presence approaching. It was as if the entire universe was holding its breath in anticipation. Slowly, I turned my attention toward what I perceived as up in this directionless realm. And there it was, a presence so vast, so powerful, so overwhelming that my mind could barely comprehend it. It had no defined form, was neither male nor female, was neither he nor she. It was everything. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty, I was face to face with God. The realization hit me like a wave of pure energy. Oh my God. I thought, then realized how fitting that thought was at that moment. God had no face, no body as we understand it. It was more like a cosmic aurora borealis, a being of pure energy rippling with colors I didn't even know existed. It was beautiful, terrifying, and fascinating all at once. And then, something happened that would change my understanding of reality forever. God communicated with me, not with words, not with sounds, but directly to my being, my essence. It was telepathy, but on a level I could never have imagined possible. It was as if a channel of knowledge connected directly to my mind, downloading information at a dizzying speed. Every thought I had, God had simultaneously. Every question that arose in my mind was answered instantly. I am the creator of the universe. I heard / felt / knew. You are the creator of the universe. I replied / thought / understood. Communication flowed in both directions, without barriers, without misunderstandings. It was pure comprehension, pure knowledge. God showed me the vastness of the universe, the complexity of existence, the interconnection of all things. I saw galaxies being born and dying. I saw the cosmic dance of planets. I saw the delicate web of life on Earth. I know everything, God told me. I even know the number of grains of sand on a beach in New Zealand. In that instant, I was transported to that beach. My consciousness expanded until I could perceive each individual grain of sand. And yes, in some incomprehensible way, I knew exactly how many there were. I returned to God's presence, marveling at this demonstration of omniscience. And I know the number of hairs on your head, God continued. Again, in an instant, I became aware of every hair follicle in my earthly body. It was a level of knowledge that defied all human logic. But the most astonishing part was yet to come. Suddenly, I felt something I can only describe as pure love. It wasn't a feeling. It was a tangible force that flowed through me, filling every fiber of my being. It was an unconditional, infinite love that encompassed everything. A love that didn't judge, that placed no conditions, that simply was. I felt completely accepted, completely understood, completely loved. In that moment, God called me by a name. It wasn't Donna, the name I had used on earth. It was a name that resonated in the depths of my soul, a name I seemed to have known since the beginning of time. I found myself in a state of pure ecstasy, of absolute happiness. It was a sense of belonging, of being exactly where I was meant to be. I never wanted it to end. As I floated in this ocean of love and knowledge, I realized I had found my true home. Everything I had experienced on earth felt like a distant dream compared to this reality. In that state of pure ecstasy, floating in an ocean of infinite love and knowledge, I found myself face to face with God. It wasn't a he or a she, but an omnipotent presence that encompassed all that existed and beyond. God's form, if it could be called a form, was like a cosmic aurora borealis. Colors I had never seen on Earth danced and intertwined in complex and beautiful patterns. It was pure, vibrant, and living energy. Our communication was telepathic, but it went beyond any human concept of telepathy. It was as if our minds were completely fused, sharing thoughts, emotions, and knowledge instantly. Welcome, I felt more than heard. And in that simple word, I perceived a love so deep and pure that it completely overwhelmed me. Am I dead? I asked, though I already knew the answer. You are more alive than you have ever been, came the response. And with those words, I understood that what we call life on Earth is only a shadow of true existence. God began to show me the universe. I saw galaxies being born and dying in what seemed like an instant. I observed the cosmic dance of planets and stars. I witnessed the evolution of life on countless worlds. Everything is connected, God explained. Every atom, every thought, every action. It's all part of a grand cosmic design. Then God showed me something that left me breathless, although I no longer needed to breathe. I saw my own life, from my birth to the moment of my death in the lake. But I didn't just see the events. I also saw their connections with everything else in the universe. Every decision you made, every person you met, every experience you had, all had a purpose, God explained. I saw how my actions had affected others and how the actions of others had affected me. It was an intricate web of cause and effect that stretched to infinity. But what about suffering? I asked, recalling difficult moments in my life and the injustices I had seen in the world. Suffering is part of growth, God replied. It is through challenges that the soul evolves and expands. I then understood that what we perceive as evil or injustice on earth is merely our limited perspective on a much larger, more complex plan. God continued to reveal to me the secrets of the universe. He showed me dimensions beyond the three we know on earth. I saw parallel realities where alternate versions of myself made different choices. Time is not linear, God explained. Past, present, and future coexist simultaneously. This revelation left me stunned. My entire conception of time and reality crumbled and rebuilt itself in an instant. Then, God called me by a name that wasn't Donna. It was a name that resonated deeply within my being, a name that seemed familiar from the beginning of time. That is your true name, God said, the name of your eternal soul. With that name, I felt an even deeper connection to my true self, to my essence beyond my earthly identity. God then showed me the concept of love in its purest and highest form. It wasn't simply an emotion, but a fundamental force of the universe, as real and tangible as gravity. Love is the force that holds the universe together, God explained. It is the essence of all creation. I felt that love flow through me, filling me with happiness and peace I had never experienced on earth. It was an indescribable ecstasy, a feeling of complete fullness. In that state of bliss, God revealed the nature of reality to me. What you perceive as reality on earth is only an illusion, he said, a projection of the true reality, which is spiritual and eternal. I then understood that our physical existence is like a shadow cast on a wall, a limited reflection of our true spiritual nature. God showed me how each soul chooses its life experiences before birth to learn and evolve. Your death in the lake was no accident, God explained. It was an experience specifically designed for you to help you awaken to your true nature. This revelation left me amazed. Everything I had lived through, even the hardest moments, had been part of a larger plan, a plan I myself had helped design. While I floated in this expanded awareness, in this union with God and everything that exists, I felt indescribable peace and joy. I didn't want this moment to ever end. But then, God asked me a question that would change the course of my existence. God looked at me with an intensity that penetrated the depths of my being. I felt as if the whole universe held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Are you ready for your next mission? God asked. The question took me by surprise. Mission? Hadn't my earthly journey ended? But am I not dead? I asked, confused. God emitted something like a laugh, but it was more like the entire cosmos vibrating with joy. Death, as humans understand it, is merely a transition, God explained. Your physical body is on the brink of death, but your soul has unfinished business. At that moment, God showed me a vision of my body, still underwater in the lake. I saw a group of people in a boat approaching quickly. They were about to rescue me. You have the option to return, God said. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to share what you have learned here. I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, the idea of leaving this state of ecstasy and unconditional love saddened me. On the other hand, the possibility of sharing this experience with the world filled me with a renewed sense of purpose. How can I share something so ineffable? I asked, feeling that human words could never capture the magnitude of what I had experienced. You will find a way, God responded. Your experience will inspire others to seek their own connection with the divine. God then showed me a series of rapid images. I saw myself giving lectures, writing books, helping people who had gone through near-death experiences. I saw how my words touched hearts and awakened consciences. Remember, God continued, that each person has their own path to the truth. Your task is not to convince, but to inspire. I felt the weight of this responsibility, but also a deep emotion at the prospect of being able to help others awaken spiritually. What if I fail? I asked, feeling a pang of doubt. God enveloped me in a wave of love, so intense that all my doubts instantly dissipated. You cannot fail, God assured me. Every action, Every word, every thought has a purpose in the grand cosmic design. Trust in the process. I then understood that I was not being sent back as the same person I had been. This experience had fundamentally transformed me. You will carry with you a spark of divine consciousness, God explained. You won't remember all the details of our encounter, but you will carry in your heart the essence of what you've learned. God showed me how this spark would manifest in my life. A heightened intuition, a deeper empathy, a stronger connection with everything around me. Your task is to be a beacon of light in a world that often seems to be in darkness, God said. Always remember that love is the most powerful force in the universe. I felt a wave of gratitude and love toward God, toward the universe, toward all existence. I was ready to return, to fulfill my mission. Go now, God said, and remember, you are never truly separate from me. I am always with you, in every atom of your being, in every beat of your heart. With these words, I felt myself beginning to move away from God's presence. It was as if I were gently falling through layers and layers of reality. As I descended, I heard God's voice one last time. Remember your true name. And while I couldn't remember the exact letters or sounds, I felt that this name was etched deep within my soul. Suddenly, I felt a jolt. I opened my eyes and found myself coughing up water, surrounded by worried faces. I was back in my body, on the rescue boat. She's alive, someone shouted. As I struggled to breathe, I felt a profound inner peace. I knew my life would never be the same. I had a mission to fulfill, a message to share. As I recovered physically in the days and weeks that followed, the details of my experience began to fade. But the essence, the unconditional love I had felt, the interconnectedness of all things, the illusory nature of physical reality, all that remained with me. I began to write, to speak, to share my experience with anyone who wanted to listen. Some people believed me, others thought I was crazy, but that didn't matter. I knew I was fulfilling my purpose. Over time, my story reached more and more people. I received letters from people all over the world telling me how my experience had given them hope, helped them overcome their fear of death, or inspired them to seek their own spiritual connection. And although I sometimes missed the direct presence of God that I had experienced, I knew that presence was always with me, in every moment, in every breath. My life had become a continuous mission, to remind people of their true divine nature, to inspire them to seek a deeper connection with the spiritual, and above all, to live from a place of love. And so, each day was a new opportunity to fulfill the task God had entrusted to me. Each interaction, each word written or spoken, was an opportunity to share a bit of that divine light I had experienced. My near drowning in the lake, which once seemed to be the end of everything, had become the beginning of the most extraordinary adventure of my life. An adventure that, I was sure, would continue far beyond this earthly existence.